And now, welcome to 7 Questions with Emmy.
Brought to you by Timberline Home, whose showroom in Idaho Falls is waiting for you to explore. Hey guys, welcome back to 7 Questions with Emmy. Today I'm interviewing Brandon Dorman, an illustrator who's created the cover art for many popular series that you know and love, including Goosebumps, Fablehaven, The Land of Stories, and so much more. He illustrated a book called The Totally Not Boring Book of Feelings that is coming out September 3rd. And I forgot to mention, these are a lot of Brandon's cover art books that he's illustrated back here. Okay, are you ready to get started with some questions?
Sure.
What got you interested in art and what made you want to pursue it as a career?
Oh wow, that's a big question. So when I was probably 10, maybe even a little bit younger, I did like to draw, but my mom and dad encouraged me to draw, and they put me in an art class. I think it was called the Big Blue Umbrella. And so I did some art classes there, and then we had a friend who was an artist, and he came over and gave me a few art lessons, and then I started painting window paintings for people, some neighbors and stuff. And I got involved in art, and I got a little sketchbook, and I like to skateboard, and the skateboard magazine that I would get had all these cool drawings, and I'd copy them. And then I did a billboard for my city, and did some t-shirts for my school. And so it just kind of snowballed, and I kept doing these things, and I would rather do drawings than do my math homework. So I spent a lot more time doing drawings.
What does a day in the life as an illustrator look like?
Probably a little bit different for everybody. But it's for me, the days can look different, but I usually like to get up and get started pretty early. And so as soon as I wake up, I'll get ready a little bit. Sometimes I'll just do the bare minimum, brush teeth and, maybe change out of your PJs. But sometimes there's a few mornings when you're still hanging out in your PJs and you get to work, and come 1 o'clock, you work. Come 1 o'clock in the afternoon, you're like, holy cow, I haven't even taken a shower yet. And then other days you get out in the morning and take a shower or go on a walk. But I have found for me that they can be long days, because creating artwork isn't always really, really fast. So and the days go by super fast when I'm just drawing all day. I always look up the clock and go, holy smokes, 3 hours has gone by, and I've only drawn the left nostril on this dragon. So anyways, but I will pause a lot of times to help take care of my kids, or go on a walk with them, or change a diaper, or go to, if one of my kids comes in and says, hey, I need to go look at something at the sports store or something, then I'll take a break and go with them. And then I'll come home at night and we'll eat dinner and everything, or at night we'll eat dinner, and then a lot of times I'll go back and I'll keep drawing even late at night. So I'm always drawing, always.
Do you have like a specific area in your house where you have like an art studio?
I used to have a bigger studio, but then we had more kids. And so then I had a little studio downstairs in our basement. But I got really lonely down there, and it was like dark, and it was like, man, I'm just all by myself. So I actually told my wife, hey, I know, because we have 5 kids, everyone needs a bedroom. So we reorganized everything so everyone has a bedroom, and I just moved upstairs into kind of the front room area, to where I can be involved in everything. And so my kids come home in and out, their friends come in and out, my wife comes in and out, and friends come over and hang out with me, and so I have a little art studio now right here in one of the front rooms of our house, and people come over all the time and hang out and watch me draw, or I help them with projects. My kids are in and out. So I don't have a huge art studio. I would love to have one day, but what I found for my personality is I'd rather have a little small space and be involved in, all the comings and goings than have a big studio that's empty. So
Yeah. What do you use to create your art? Like, do you use markers, pens, like computer stuff?
most of the stuff that I do now is digital. So I use a big tablet to draw on, and I do most of it in Adobe Photoshop. But sometimes I'll do Procreate, and Illustrator and things like that. But most of it is Photoshop. And I love to draw and paint, but a lot of times with deadlines, if a book publishing company needs something, quick, or they need something changed, fast, I can jump on the computer and I can do it digitally and send it off, and be, all good. And then I can take my pen, set it down, and none of my kids or anybody else can bump the paints or anything like that. But I do have a commitment and a dream to do more traditional artwork in the future.
How do you know when like an illustration is done? Like once you've done all of
So my illustrations, some people will start, from the background and then kind of come and do everything in the background, finish that, and then do everything like the midground and come to the foreground and finish that, and maybe on the characters. But I seem to, and it's easier to do it digitally than it is traditionally, but I seem to kind of do a little in the background, a little in the foreground, and kind of balance those. And I work on all the different aspects. I might work on the background for a little bit and then come to the characters in the foreground, or an element, if we're painting a witch or something, a cat or something, maybe work on the cat for a little bit and kind of bring it all together, kind of bring it up together. I almost kind of like sculpting a little bit, if you've ever sculpted. And then I get to a point where I'm like, if I get to a point where I think, okay, well, I've got that pretty much nailed down, I've got that nailed down, and this is painted and finished, and there's nothing else that I think really could use a little more, then we call it good. And now sometimes it's good to let it sit for a few days and not look at it, and then come back with a new set of eyes or new fresh eyes and look at it. So, and then there's usually little things that might change if I have a chance to do that. But sometimes we're up against a deadline and we just got to send it off and be done.
Yeah. What books did you like reading as a kid?
There was a book called Eddie Fantastic that I really liked, but I think that was Chris. I have to go back and look at the author. Who was it? I read Holes. Holes been out that long. I can't remember when I read Holes. I used to read The Indian in the Cupboard.
What is the hardest part of your job?
I think the hardest part would be, uh, making good art quickly, right? So if they're publishing a book, let's say it's Goosebumps or something else, and in order for that book to be in stores or on shelves for people to buy, right? That's the whole objective. You by a certain date, let's say for Christmas, then you got to work backwards, right? You got to have it to the printer at a certain date so that they can print it, so then they can ship it, so then they can, all these things. And a lot of times that gets backed up. And they're like, okay, well, Brandon, we need all the art done really fast, right? And so a lot of times we need to do it within a short window, a short time frame, but you still want to make really good art. And art can take a while sometimes, even when you're just drawing and painting and coming up with ideas. It can take a while. It just does. And what I've found is that's probably the hardest part, is how do I make quality artwork for books within a short amount of time.
How do you relate to your art, and do you think it shows a little bit of your personality?
How do I relate to my art? So there is this thing that in kind of the art world a little bit is, some people will say, hey, you draw people that look like you. A lot of artists do that, right? So And they say, I don't know why, but hey, you're just used to looking at yourself, I guess. So I usually draw people with big noses because I have a big nose. So, um, but I hopefully, my art communicates fun and adventure. I like to draw people smiling because it's always good to smile. So that's good. But I just I try to communicate. I try to create art that you wouldn't see in a photograph. It would be different if you needed a photo. If you needed something to look exactly realistic, then you could take a photograph. Now, that's not to say people who draw realistic drawings. I mean, they're amazing and everything. But most of my stuff is, hey, how can I make this look even cooler than a photo or something?
Yeah. What advice do you have for me?
I think the best advice that I could give is even when there's important things and cool things out there. You see a book come out and published, yay, that's awesome, or a picture book, or you get in a cool interview with someone like you, right? But behind all those cool things that pop up or that are shown, or all those cool events, there's hours and hours and hours of learning and drawing, or learning and writing, or developing your skills that a lot of people don't see, right? So someone might ask me, hey, how long did it take you to paint the cover for Wizard for Hire, right? That's behind you there. And I will say, well, it took me 2 days, and they're like, whoa, I could never do that. And it just took you like 2 days to put all that together. I'm like, well, 2 days and like 30 years of drawing, right?
Yeah.
So you just behind the scenes when you're just at home, instead of maybe wasting some time or just watching a random TV show, which all those things are in good balance, but I think you really hone in on things if you sacrifice a few of those things that really aren't gonna matter all that much, and you put in the work to make your skill a little bit better, right? And you do the little details, and you learn different things, and you're constantly trying to get better. I am constantly trying to get better. I mean, I look at the books behind you. I look at all the books that we've done. But if I get a new project, if I get a new job, I'm like, okay, how can I make this the coolest thing that I've done yet, right? So maybe the advice there is every interview that you do, you think, okay, I know I've done some great interviews in the past, but how do I make this one the best? And if you constantly do that, then you constantly and consistently be improving. So I don't know. Does that work?
Yeah, that does. Thank you so much for talking with me.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thanks so much for watching. Remember, new 7 questions interviews are posted every Thursday. Be sure to follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Love you guys. Bye. 7 Questions with Emmy, brought to you by Timberline Home, whose showroom in Idaho Falls is waiting for you to explore.